Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Thanks for bearing with us, everyone. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back. And I just wanted to say good evening to everyone for joining us and welcome. My name is Leslie Wegener. I live in Stoddard, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area. We want to thank you for tuning in tonight. For this forum, we want to thank everyone who emailed their questions for tonight. We want to thank you for hanging in with us while we resolved our technical difficulties. And we especially want to thank the candidates in the 96th Assembly primary race for accepting our invitation to speak. For those of you unfamiliar with the League of Women Voters, we are a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government. We also work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. As a nonpartisan organization, we do not support or oppose any political party or candidate. All across Wisconsin, legislative candidates are on the ballot in next month's partisan primary. The August 13th election will be the first under the new legislative district maps enacted in Wisconsin earlier this year. Our goal in hosting tonight's forum is to encourage voter interest and participation in this statewide primary election and give voters in the 96th Assembly District the opportunity to meet each candidate and learn about their views on issues that affect constituents in the new 96. The League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area adheres to candidate forum guidelines issued by our state league, which emphasize consistent and specific criteria that uphold our commitment to fairness and impartiality. So here's a brief overview of the format for tonight's program. The forum will run approximately 60 minutes. Each candidate will have 2 minutes at the beginning and the closing of the forum for comments of their choice. Each candidate will be responding to questions received in advance by email to the La Crosse Area's League's email box, questions submitted now live through the YouTube audience, as well as more general questions prepared by League. Our moderator has the option of rephrasing questions for clarity or combining questions that are similar. Questions are presented by the moderator in rotation, with each candidate given the opportunity to respond. Responses are timed so they don't exceed 1 minute, allowing us to cover as many questions as possible before our time runs out. Tonight's forum is being live streamed, we hope, on the La Crosse Area League of Women Voters YouTube page, but we are also recording it so that those links can be posted later on the La Crosse Area League of Women Voters website, and we will include that address at the end on our closing slide. So I'd like to introduce the League members on hand for tonight's forum. Catherine Kolkmeyer is the moderator posing the questions and guiding the proceedings. Mary Nugent is serving as our timekeeper and Zoom host behind the scenes. I will be watching for and collecting your online questions after we get started. And it's my pleasure to introduce the two 96th Assembly Democratic primary candidates this evening, Steve Campbell and Tara Johnson. Thanks for your patience and thanks for being with us. So now we are going to turn things over to Catherine and get this forum underway.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you to the candidates for coming tonight. The way we will be running our proceedings this evening, we did do a random choice earlier before we started, and Ms. Johnson was the first to begin, so we will begin with her opening statements. Ms. Johnson, you have 2 minutes.
Can I have a restart, Mary, on the timer because I didn't unmute myself? Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Leslie and Mary and the League for hosting what I think is a really critical part of this election cycle. And I am grateful for the work that you invest in helping in voter education. My name is Tara Johnson, and I am running to be the next representative in the new 96th Assembly District. And I come to this because really the people's work is the work that I have always done my whole life, whether it was in the United Way system as a professional there, or my years of service on the La Crosse County Board, solving problems, bringing people together, really getting things done is what I have spent my life doing. And I believe that we have an obligation to continue to do good work when we are able to do it. And that is, for me, a really important part of why I am running. I think it is also important to remind folks that the work that I have done as a local elected official on the La Crosse County Board is work that has been done in a nonpartisan setting. There are no letters after people's names that indicate a party affiliation when you are on a county board. And so balancing budgets and keeping taxes low and really making innovative programs available to residents in La Crosse County in lots of different places is the work that I am very proud of, and proud to have done it with folks who come to that county board table from lots of backgrounds and experiences and points of view. And that's what I think it will take to get things done in Madison in the assembly. I've been a lifelong Democrat. I am proud to be running as a Democrat. I'm proud to represent the town of Shelby. And I am looking forward to hearing questions and responding to them tonight. And I just want to say thanks to Steve to start with. It's been fun running in this primary with you.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. So hello, everybody. My name is Steve Campbell. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this forum to all the attendees who are actively participating in our democracy. It's wonderful to see so many people on here tonight in a race, in just a state assembly race. Pretty cool. This is a very important election cycle. This has been a lot of ups and downs here in the last few weeks. Hopefully, a legendary and epic election of the first Black woman president in our country's history. A lot of excitement happening, which has been pretty amazing to see as well as be a part of. I'm running for the Wisconsin 96th Assembly seat because this is my home. You are my neighbors. And I believe I have a different perspective that I'm bringing to this seat. I have not been in politics. I have been in the general world working, starting businesses. I went to college at UW La Crosse to be a teacher. So education is extremely important to me. I serve individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in my business, and who many of those have a mental health diagnosis that goes along with that. So mental health is and the lack of services in this state and in this country are a topic that I'm very concerned about. I believe I have the ability to speak to the needs of our rural and urban population, as well as our progressive and conservative residents. I can relate to them, I spend time with them, and I call them friends. One of the biggest topics this cycle will be the reversal of Roe versus Wade a couple of years ago. My 9-year-old daughter now has less rights to control her body. So that will be a big topic. Thank you.
Thank you both. So we'll begin with the questions. We'll start with the basic question. As Leslie mentioned, some of these questions come directly from League, and when they are topical, that is because it's one of the issues that is important to the League of Women Voters. We wanted to let you know where those topics come from, and I'll always let you know if a question is coming from the audience. But we'll start with an introductory question. What do you believe are the most important challenges facing the 96th district, and how do you access that in Wisconsin? And we're going to begin with Mr. Campbell.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. I have 3 major topics that I feel are important and that I hear people talking about as I'm knocking doors and speaking of residents.
Of economic issues, absolutely top of the list, especially for I would say older population, when I'm talking to them, is the need to codify a full reproductive freedom for all individuals in our community, in our state, in our country. That is top of the list as well. And then third, I would say there are definitely some healthcare issues and environmental issues. But I also think the concern that I hear is disappointment that Madison is not working, and the need to send people to Madison to get that work, the people's work done.
Thank you. Next question comes from an audience member that was submitted earlier. Please explain how Medicaid expansion in Wisconsin would impact the 96th Assembly District and the path you see to finally getting this done in our state. We'll begin with you, Ms. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. Terrific question. So Medicaid expansion will make a difference in the Badger Care program for almost 90,000 Wisconsinites, and proportionate to our population in the state. That means several thousand folks in the 96th will have access to healthcare that they currently do not have. And I think it's important for people to understand that for the last many years, while Republicans, including Loren Oldenburg, have been in the majority in the Assembly, we have not taken the expansion of Medicare dollars and Medicaid dollars, and that has meant over $1.6 billion in lost revenue to the state of Wisconsin. And it is imperative that when Democrats take back the majority in the Assembly, this is a top priority for us to pass legislation that accepts those Medicaid expansion dollars so that 90,000 of our neighbors and friends can get back coverage.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Yes, exactly right, Tara. 90,000 Wisconsinites are going without health care due to the fact that Republicans have held this up. Wisconsin is one of 10 states that is not accepting this money as of now. So this is tax money leaving Wisconsin, and then instead of coming back through the federal government, that money is then being dispersed amongst these other 40 states that have accepted these funds and who are receiving care for more individuals. The argument for this in the beginning was that they were concerned that these funds would dry up, right? The Republicans' argument was that these federal funds aren't going to last, and that's why we need to not accept them. Well, it's been over 10 years. It's been over 10 years. These funds are still going strong. It's time to accept these funds.
Thank you. Next question. What should state and local government do to provide an equitable, quality public education for all children pre-K through grade 12? We'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
I think the very first thing is to decide on one system. With the voucher program that is currently happening in Wisconsin, we are trying to fund two education systems when in legislation 1993, somewhere in there, or possibly earlier, the state legislature had passed bills to pay 2/3 of public education costs, and they simply haven't done it. So since all these years that they have passed legislation to do this, and it's just simply not being done. And now we are spending $573 million in one school year to put individuals in a separate school system that does not have standardized testing, things like that. Illinois just got rid of this. It's time Wisconsin got rid of it as well.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson. Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Catherine, will you repeat the question? I just want to make sure I'm answering the entirety of it, please.
Question is, what should state and local government do to provide an equitable, quality public education for all children pre-K through grade 12?
Okay, thank you. So what state government should be doing is committing the 2/3 funding to local school districts that they made many moons ago and have never completed. They have never fulfilled that commitment. And what that has meant is that local taxpayers are paying a disproportionate amount of what it takes to educate in the public school system. I would say beyond what what Steve said. I don't think it's decide on one system. I think it's commit to the public education system, K-12. And I think it should be technical schools and university system, and perhaps we'll get another question on that. But I think that the voucher program is a complete embarrassment in this state. I think it is devastating to public schools. It is a completely inequitable system that siphons money away from public schools. So state elected officials, and this is what I commit to doing, should put full funding into public education K-12.
Thank you. Another audience question. Wisconsin citizens have lost the ability to petition their government through non-advisory referendums. Do you support the right of citizens to introduce referendums to gauge the positions of voters on specific issues? We'll begin with you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I love this question because this is important to me as a former local elected official. Absolutely referendum questions that are advisory in nature, that are a way for voters to voice their opinions on important issues to them, should be a right that we have as residents in Wisconsin. And the fact that the Republican legislature decided not only you can't have advisory referendum questions anymore because they didn't like the fact that voters were speaking out and telling them that they were doing a bad job and taking bad votes, but they have also now decided to put their own referendum questions statewide onto the August 13th ballot, for example, and they will continue to do this. So they use it as a bully pulpit, but they don't want local municipalities to have that opportunity. And it is imperative for a democracy that citizens can speak out on issues that are important to them in lots of ways, including local referendum questions.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you. Yes, agreed. It continues to baffle me. You know, Tara did a great job of explaining that and the reasoning, but the amount of things that aren't being done due to the stronghold that the Republicans have on our legislature. Tara and I's Democratic colleagues have been trying and writing bills and trying to get things done to help our state. They're simply not able to do that. And now they take our ability to simply ask a question on a ballot to get some information and try to find out what the people actually want, which is what our legislature, in my opinion, is there for, is to try to pass laws and make rules in regard to the will of the people. And this is an example that is not.
Thank you. Next question. What measures do you support to improve and secure elections and voting access in Wisconsin? We'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
So to improve elections and access?
To improve and secure elections and voting access.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The access question is extremely difficult in rural areas, right? We have in urban areas, I think there's issues in regard to not enough polling places, long lines, excessive waits, things like that. In rural areas, however, it is, how do I get there? How do I get to the place where I'm supposed to vote? And so having multiple areas for these individuals, ensuring that all citizens are aware of where their polling station is, where do they vote. In committees that I'm on, all these meetings that I'm going to, what is very evident is that people are not getting the information, whether it's a committee meeting, whether it's something about the infrastructure of a community. Those things are not being passed along. We've tried digital, we've tried newspapers. I think word of mouth needs to be done and helping our neighbors get to where they need to be.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
I think it starts with listening to the League of Women Voters, quite honestly. I mean, there are no better defenders of democracy, in my opinion, than the League of Women Voters. And you have consistently advocated for things like expanding early voting opportunities, improving and opening up voter registration, Thankfully, the court supported the Dropbox litigation. And that was, I think we all sighed a sigh of relief when that happened. Those are some very specific examples of how we make sure to secure elections. And I think it also comes as a state legislator, I would be an advocate for codifying a nonpartisan map drawing process that avoids the crap of the last many years and the legal bills and the fighting. Last thing I want to say is follow the league's example and have a clerk like Ginny Dankmeyer in La Crosse County, and you'll have democracy secured.
Thank you. Next question. What is your stance on reproductive rights and access to abortion care? We'll start with you, Ms. Johnson.
Thanks. Such an important question. As you heard both of us mention, this is top of mind for voters. This for me is a very personal issue, and it is in part because I am the mother of a 25-year-old and a 27-year-old who currently have less rights and less reproductive freedom than I had when I was their age living in this state. And that is wrong. And I make a commitment to working for and voting for a state law that codifies Roe v. Wade and makes reproductive freedom a law in the state of Wisconsin. And we cannot go back. There's just no other way to put it. This is one of the top issues that I will fight for as the representative from the 96th district, and proudly do that.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Tara and I were fortunate enough to be at a panel discussion in regard to reproductive rights today. And yeah, that's the discussion. We have currently jumped backwards 173 years in regard to our reproductive issues and decision making that women have for their bodies. Tara talked about her daughters. I have a 9-year-old daughter that when she is of age to make her own decisions doesn't have that right now. She does not get to decide that. Like Tara had mentioned, her grandmother in the last 50 or so years had more rights than she has currently. That to me is what the Republican Party and the GOP is doing to our country, and what they're looking to do. They're looking to take away contraception, take away IVF. That is not the direction our country goes, and that is backwards.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the next question. I lost my place. Next question. Is there evidence, this is from an audience member, by the way, is there evidence that illegal immigration is hurting Wisconsin? How and what can be done about that? And how have immigrants helped Wisconsin? And we're going to begin with Mr. Campbell.
Thank you for the question. Obviously, immigration is more of a federal level, but we have many illegal immigrants living in Wisconsin. And what strikes me so odd is that oftentimes it's the employers of these individuals that are the biggest arguers against having these individuals. The negative connotations that former President Trump is putting out in regard to these individuals coming into our country is simply, they're simply false, right? These individuals are paying taxes. They are not receiving services, healthcare services from Medicaid and things like that. They're not getting those things, but they are paying taxes to the state of Wisconsin and the federal government. So in that regard, they're helping, right? They are not all murderers and rapists and things like that. These are individuals looking for a better life, and they're here in Wisconsin. We need to find a way to help them.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I think the question started with, is there evidence that?
Is there evidence? Would you like me to read it again?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Yes, that's all right. Is there evidence that illegal immigration is hurting Wisconsin? How and what can be done about it? And how have immigrants helped Wisconsin?
Excuse me. So I am not aware of any evidence that illegal immigration has hurt Wisconsin. I believe we are a country of immigrants. I know that this state benefits, benefits from the labor and the taxes and the engagement and the richness of culture that immigrants have brought to this state throughout our history and continue to bring to this state. And from an economic point of view, which I'm guessing is the question about evidence, there are lots of employers. I'm thinking especially of dairy farmers who I know who could not stay in business were it not for immigrant workforce that is helping them stay in business and do the work that needs to be done. So that is what I know. I don't know of any evidence that says that it is damaging.
Thank you. The next question, what, if anything, can state government do to reduce the role of money in American elections? We're going to start with you, Ms. Johnson.
Great. I love this question. I think it is tougher for state government. I think that this is an issue that I wish federal elected officials were willing to take on and pay attention to. It is gross. It is obscene, the amount of money that is spent on getting people elected to do the people's work. And I would do anything I could to work on legislation that, if we can, in the state of Wisconsin, for example, be more transparent about where monies come from to candidates. We have lots of dark money, lots of independent expenditure monies that go into not just state races, but also local school board races, local county board races that have no place in local politics. And I will be a huge advocate for any legislation and will vote for any legislation that removes that dark money and in place puts transparency.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
I think the stopping this and fixing this can start at the local level. If we can make laws and regulations at the local level to control this, and then we move to the county level, we move to the state level, we would be creating a roadmap in essence for the federal government to follow. And I believe it's apparent to everyone that I speak to and most Americans that, as Tara said, it's obscene the amount of money that is going into these things, the millions, billions of dollars that is being spent. And the fact that corporations and super PACs are able to put as much money, your average citizen can donate so much, but then an entity that has a very specific interest can give endless amounts of money. That's rife for corruption. So I think it needs to start at the local level.
Thank you. Next question coming from an audience member. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources faces a funding crisis. Do you support increasing hunting and fishing license fees to address this deficit? Let me start with you, Mr. Campbell.
Yes, thank you. So I am a hunter, and I obviously I don't like costs going up on things, but I think that people need to understand that the amount of hunters in the state of Wisconsin has dropped drastically in the last 20, 30, 50 years. So things need to be done. We have expectations of the DNR to take care of our natural resources, and the funding for a lot of that comes from those licenses. So I would be a proponent of raising those prices. Obviously not significantly is my goal, would be my goal in regard to that. But also just how about properly funding these departments like the Department of Natural Resources that are short on staff and do not have the amount of resources they need to do the job that they need to do.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thanks for another good question. I think that license fees should reflect the cost of what the impact is for that activity. The same as state park fees. And I think it really is a question of what do we value? And if we value the natural resources of this state, then we need to be investing in protecting those resources and preserving them and conserving them. And part of how we pay for that is those who use, right? So it's a mix funding formula of license fees and budget dollars from the state. And it would be a reflection of our values to more fully fund that. I want to do a quick shout on this to Paul Burr and to Marcy West, both of whom are in the 96th, who serve on the DNR board right now, and they do great work.
Thank you. Another audience question. Do you support requiring all lobbying activity involving state agencies and public authorities to be reported and available for public scrutiny? We'll start with you, Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Full stop.
Full stop.
Okay, thank you.
Agreed.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question. What, if anything, should
time to find a new question?
I know it. Caught me off guard on that one. The next question, what, if any, steps should be taken to curb gun violence in Wisconsin? We'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
I think there are some very simple common sense, right? Steps that can be taken in regard to red flag laws, in regard to closing the gun, the buying them at a gun show, right? Things like that. Mandatory background checks. The amount of violence that we've seen in this country needs to end. I believe a big part of gun violence is the lack of mental health services that our state and country have, right? And that's what these red flag laws are meant to help, right? If someone is having an issue and has some police contact, things like that, perhaps they need to. And I'm a hunter, I'm a sportsman. I don't promote taking people's guns away at all. But if we're going to do something to help save lives, then we need to use our common sense and do something that if someone is acting erratically and things like that, that them having a weapon is not appropriate.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. So agreement that we have too many guns, too many of the wrong type of guns accessible and available to period, accessible and available. And beyond the red flag laws and making sure that we are protecting the safety of Wisconsinites by having measures in place that keep folks who have mental health issues from owning guns. I think for me, the issue is really about weapons of war, that we should be passing laws, we should be preventing assault weapons, and in particular weapons of war, to be available in the state of Wisconsin. And I'm talking about, extended magazines and grenade launchers and pistol mounts and bump stocks and so forth. That is a place where we can pass legislation and make a difference.
Thank you. This is a question that came in from a viewer tonight on YouTube. Is large-scale industrial farming the future of Wisconsin? And if not, what can you do in the assembly to bring back small-scale organic farming and agriculture? We'll start with you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I sure hope not, right? I sure hope that I hope that is not the case. I hope that the answer to the question is no. And I think what the state legislature can do is first and foremost acknowledge that it's an issue. I think when, in general, Republican lawmakers ignore setting standards, for water quality, for manure runoff, for other things. I think when Republican legislators fail to see the damage that is done, they pass laws or they avoid passing laws that would protect our farmland. And I think it is the obligation of the state legislature, and especially the representative from the 96th, to get to work on passing laws that protect small farmers.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
That's the challenge, right? In the 96th district, historically an extremely rural district, the amount of family farms are dropping decade after decade, year after year, because there isn't money in that, right? I was speaking with Darren Von Ruden from the Wisconsin Dairy Board, and milk prices for 100 weight are still, I think he said $17. That wasn't okay 20 years ago. $17 wasn't okay. And that's what a dairy farmer is supposed to take now and raise their family and take care of the land. That is not sustainable. In regard to the land with farmers, we need to work with farmers. How do we do these things? How do we come up with these solutions to help ensure that this land is here? They need the land. They want to make sure the land is good too. So we need to work with farmers to ensure that happens.
Thank you. Next question, also from an audience member. Local governmental control and citizens' rights seem to be eroding with more power concentrated with the state legislature. What can be done to restore the balance of power? We'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
That seems to be the struggle, right? When we can't even put referendums out there to get the attention of our legislators. And can you just repeat that real quick for me,
Sure.
Catherine? Sorry.
Yes, no, that's fine. Look, local governmental control and citizens' rights seem to be eroding with more power concentrated with the state legislature. What can be done to restore the balance of power?
Thank you. So I think I don't know what, I think what's scarier to me is that a lot of legislation is being put in the hands of the justices in the court system. And this is happening on the state level as well as the federal level. We saw it with our maps. We've seen it in multiple areas on the federal level, is that, and so they're not, doesn't seem like people want to do their jobs. And this to me, again, is a GOP agenda of let's stack the court in what will work for us. And then we won't have to make any decisions. We're going to go put that information on court, to the courts. I think people are done with these things. People are noticing them. And it isn't just people who pay attention to politics, like those of us sitting here. Your general average citizen is fed up with things not being done in our government, and not being heard.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
When I was chair of the La Crosse County Board, we experienced this firsthand, and on a couple of fronts. The one that comes to mind most readily is in the siting of cell towers. So the topography of La Crosse County is different than the topography of Milwaukee County or other counties, and yet, which is important. So when you're siting a cell tower, you want to be sure to protect bluff views and protect vulnerable land. And Wisconsin state legislature, led by Republicans, took away La Crosse County and every county's right to site cell towers. And they said, no, we can't have a patchwork quilt of different ordinances from around the state. We have to have one set of laws that will cover that. And that was wrong. And the state legislature, if it was proportionately representative of how people feel, meaning not gerrymandered, hopefully the new fair maps get us to legislators who will listen to local units of government better.
Thank you. The next question, what measures would you support to reduce the effects of climate change on public health in the 96th Assembly District? We'll start with you, Ms. Johnson.
These are so many great questions. So again, during my time on the county board, we worked very hard to be a sustainable county. We passed legislation that committed to that. We put monies into solar panels, and we opened the first green tier landfill in the state of Wisconsin. We built new buildings that were LEED-like. We took a lot of measures to make sure that La Crosse County was a sustainable county. And I think that that is some of the work that I am most proud of and is part of my DNA as a local elected official, and will be what I take with me to Madison. And there is nothing more important than fighting for the natural resources, the beauty, the environment, the air, the land in the 96th and throughout the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Democrats are not climate change deniers, right? We respect the science. We pay attention to those things, and we've seen climate change firsthand in the 96th district, 2007, 2008, 2017, 2018, with these 100-year and 500-year floods that devastated this county. So there needs to be a lot of cooperation on both sides of the aisle, as Tara was talking about earlier. And that's difficult when you have a majority of individuals who deny climate change. So there needs to be conversations. There needs to be data that's brought in to try to help these individuals understand and pay attention to the world and the changes that are happening, and the floods and the damage and tornadoes that are ravaging us.
Thank you. This question is just coming from YouTube from a viewer this evening. How would you work to lower childcare costs for working families in Wisconsin? Mr. Campbell, we'll start with you.
We're already seeing that in the 96th district. We're seeing that in Viroqua. The city has a 6,000 square foot unit going up in the new building being built where the old county shop in Viroqua was, on the corner of 14 and Broadway. So what they're doing in that regard is they're going to rent that to someone, a provider, for $1 for a year, right? So that is the way that the city is helping. Can you imagine the rental cost of 6,000 square feet of prime real estate in any area, and to give that at that cost is a push to get providers in there to provide the care that our employers need, to ensure that they can have the workers that they need. I think there needs to be more done in regard to businesses offering that as well.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Yep, so I agree that I think there's a lot that can be done around this. I think we have some great examples in Viroqua, especially the school district. Viroqua School District also has set up a child care center, and they have done that because they see the need and they understand that for families, childcare needs to be affordable and accessible. So they have a sliding fee childcare center in their district building, and that is really impressive. I agree the city of Viroqua has an impressive model also. And the La Crosse County has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in finding a solution to the child care system in La Crosse County, and working with providers and employers and families to try to figure that out. And I think we should be following that model. And I think that the state should be investing some of its surplus money in incenting local opportunities for child care to become more affordable and accessible.
Great. Thank you very much. Before we go to the next question, I wanted to let you know that it is 7:24. We were normally go to 7:25 now. We were going to go to our closing statements then. However, we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, and with the permission of both our candidates, we'd like to extend for another 10 minutes. Are you both in agreement about that? All right, thank you very much. Our next question then, how will you work to increase job opportunities for your constituents? We'll start with Ms. Johnson.
Yeah, job opportunities come from people feeling good about where they live and work, and employers taking the opportunity to grow their businesses. And so that entrepreneurial spirit is something that I am very familiar with. My husband was a small business owner, and when you feel positive about the economy, about the community, you take risks and you grow businesses. But I also think how we grow jobs is we value employees, and we make sure that we pay them a living wage so that they know that they can raise their families and support their families on that wage. And so I think it also starts with, excuse me, making sure that we have a living wage legislation in the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
So obviously for business people to have employees, there needs to be housing. These employees need a place to live. These employees need infrastructure in a community that invites them to want to be there, bike lanes, parks, things like that. So it really is not just in regard to legislation. I believe it comes down to cities and business owners working together as well, to bring these things that people want to their communities. We could have all the jobs in the world in any one place, but if nobody wants to live there, you're not going to find any employees. And we're seeing that in La Crosse, with the new buildings going up and apartment complexes. We're seeing that in Viroqua as well, with apartments and housing developments being built. So that's the step. We need to have places for these people to live first.
Thank you. Next question. What, if anything, should our state do to control the cost of prescription drugs? Mr. Campbell.
They should do everything we should do everything we can to control the cost of prescription drugs. And a very beginning to that would be to start accepting those federal Medicaid dollars to help insure 90,000 more Wisconsinites. The cost of drugs in Wisconsin and in the United States compared to other parts of the world is multiples of what other countries are paying. And the fact that that's allowed is due to legislation, right? And that needs to be fixed. We need to do things, and we've seen that happening. We've seen that happening with President Biden restricting insulin costs and things like that, and capping Medicare payments on certain medications and things. So we're seeing that process begin. But why is that not? Why would every legislator not want that for their constituents?
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. Yeah, I think at the federal level, there has been tremendous progress made on this. I'm especially proud of Senator Tammy Baldwin, who worked on inhalers recently and making sure that the cost of those is capped. We know that the Biden administration worked on that for insulin. But to be honest, I'm not sure at the state level what can be done other than as a negotiator for a pool of employees who are, in the hundreds of thousands, or maybe pooling with local units of government and other, school districts and others to negotiate deals with prescription drug manufacturers, with insurers, to make sure that costs are contained. My guess is, and again, I'm not an expert on this yet, but my guess is that would be one way that the state could have an impact on prescription drug prices.
Great, thank you very much. Next question. What policies will you pursue to promote social and racial justice in our state? We'll start with you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. So this is, again, work that I feel close to and have a strong track record in. And what needs to be done, I believe, at the state level is already happening. And again, I really believe that the new fair maps create an opportunity for electing legislators who reflect the values of the state. And I believe that as Wisconsinites, in large measure, we embrace diversity and we want inclusion. And we, as state legislators, would have the opportunity to reverse what the mean-spirited Republican legislators did this past session to put the kibosh on DEI initiatives in the university system. I think it is the first thing we can do is go to Madison with the attitude of valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion, and passing laws that support that.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Tara's statements as well. And in regard to DEI and the push of former President Trump and the GOP to be pushing this as an issue, continues to show that the attack on minorities, the attack on women in regard to taking away their rights to make decisions for their own bodies. These are things that are being pushed on us as a fear tactic. Right. And Wisconsin is progressive. Wisconsin makes changes. Wisconsin decides that we're going to lead the way. And that can be done in racial justice as well. We have a vast population of Hmong population in La Crosse that needs assistance and deserves that help that they require.
Thank you. We'll do one final question, and that is, what will you do to support a vibrant economy in our state and region? And we'll start with you, Mr. Johnson. I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell.
Could you repeat that again, please, Catherine?
Yes. What will you do to support a vibrant economy in our state and region?
Thank you. Wisconsin is beautiful, and especially the 96th. One of our big money makers and attractants is the beauty of this area, and that involves taking care of our natural resources. And to help ensure that we have people continuing to want to come here, because when those people come here to see this beauty, to see our beautiful water and our crystal clear streams and things like that, they're spending money. They're spending money in these small local towns and in these small local businesses, going out to eat and things like that. So maintaining the beauty of this area and the natural world that we have is imperative to that. But also, I discussed earlier, housing and providing reasons for our college graduates who went away and for them to come back and want to be here and raise children and start businesses and live in Wisconsin.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I think a vibrant economy comes from a state that reflects the values of the people who live here. So for me, that is putting a full investment of money into public education so that every person has a chance to succeed. So that includes K-12, our K-12 public school systems. It also includes technical school system and the university system. These are bright, shining stars in our state, and we need to invest in them as a way to grow and build the economy in this state. I think it's also on a very, on the housing issue, we need to be expediting permitting processes, and we need to make sure that WIDA has a clear path to having grant dollars available for housing development. It means a lot of the things that we've been talking about tonight, where we have a state that is led by legislators who believe in the state and are positive about it instead of trying to tamp it down.
Thank you very much. That concludes our questions for this evening, and so we will go on to our closing statements. Ms. Johnson, since you went first in the opening statements, we will begin with Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell, would you like to go ahead with 2 minutes for a closing statement?
Yes, thank you. Again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters of La Crosse for giving us this forum. I'd like to thank Tara for being here and all the work that she has done, and just being a part of this with me. This is an exciting time in the 96th district, with a real chance to flip this seat that has been held by a Republican since 1951. 73 years that this seat has been held by a Republican. Primaries are tough, right? People have to decide between two people that have a lot of the same ideas. That is not easy on voters. So I want to tell you why I feel like I'm the best candidate to beat Loren Oldenburg in the November election. I am a moderate, common sense candidate. I come from a rural area where I want to ensure this rural type of life and farming and the beautiful land that we're fortunate to live with is maintained, is taken care of, and I will prioritize the needs of the 96th district over anything else. I am looking to go to Madison to represent the constituents of the 96th district. As Tara had mentioned earlier, Loren had, I think and maybe this was another time perhaps, but Loren has had about 3 votes that have gone away from the GOP line in the 6 years that he's been there. I'm guessing not all those votes were meant to help the people of the 96th. We need a legislator that is there for the right reasons. I'm not there to go make friends and be buddies with everybody. I'm there to support the people of the 96th district and do the best that I can for them. I hope that I've earned your vote. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. Steve and I have been hanging out a lot together, so you're going to hear some similar themes here. I agree. It is so important that this forum happened tonight, and I am grateful to the League for putting it on, and to you, Leslie and Catherine and Mary, for being the behind the curtain, making it all look good. So thank you to the League, because you are true defenders of democracy, and I appreciate very much the work that you have done. And Steve, I'm happy. I'm having a blast in the primary, and I think that that's a good thing. And I think that that's an indication of who we are as Democrats. I've been a Democrat my whole life, and I am proud of it. There are a lot of progressive things that happened on the La Crosse County Board during my tenure there, and especially as chair of the county board. And I am proud of that. We are a very innovative county, and that is a testament not just to the elected officials, but to the staff of La Crosse County. But really, for me, this forum and this race comes down to a new, beautiful blue 96th Assembly District that is bifurcated between La Crosse County and Vernon County, but we share values across all throughout the district. And we are here because we have fair maps, and we have taken the baton from good people like Nathaniel Slack, who was a plaintiff in the legal action, and all of the other people who have led us to this point. And I feel that we have an opportunity. I feel I have an obligation to put my experience and my leadership to work to take that baton and get elected. And that's what this is about, is making sure that we have the strongest Democrat who has the experience, who can take on Loren Oldenburg. And I am ready to beat Loren Oldenburg and be the next representative from the 96th Assembly District.
Thank you. I'd like to thank both of our candidates tonight for making yourselves available and for your interest in serving your district through public service. To our audience, I'd also like to reaffirm that the viewpoints you heard this evening are the candidates only and not the leagues. Wouldn't be League of Women Voters Forum if we didn't remind you about the election. We've got some information we're going to put up on the screen here. The election is coming up on August 13th. This is a partisan primary. So just as a reminder, you'll see the notes here. You may vote. You may only vote within one political party. So there are a number of races that you will see on your ballot. You can have a look at those here. You can learn more about that also on the league website. So we'll have some information there. There are also 2 ballot referendum questions on proposed amendments to the Wisconsin Constitution. So please do take some time to learn about those issues and how you may vote on those questions. These are important ways for voters to contribute to conversation at the state level. Also, if you're interested in learning more about any of these issues or about the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area or joining our efforts to empower and educate voters, we hope that you will visit our website. This is our 100th year of being the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area. So it's a celebration year for us. And we would like to direct you to our website to learn more about what we're doing, but also direct you to Vote 411, which is an opportunity to learn about the candidates in more detail. And myvotewisconsin.gov is a site where you are able to learn more about your voting processes where you live. So thank you all for joining us, and we wish you all a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. I thought I saw a comment about staying on after, or was that something else?
Yes, I was going to say that, and I was pushing too many buttons. I think we lost. Tara.
Tara, yeah.
Tara. Leslie, did you? I stopped the recording.
Okay.
Did you stop the streaming?
Yep, I am trying to get my video back, but just like everything else, it's just not happening. But I did just want to say that, what are you saying, Catherine?
I'm seeing that we're still live on, it says host says live on custom live streaming service. Just want to make sure.